Typically, men are comfortable with women being in the role of being the vehicle to direct their conversations about sports.
Not true. When it was Cold Pizza with Skip Bayless and Woody Page. Okay, I can't remember the guy that was on there, but that there was a man that was doing that. Was it Nick Strike show with Chris Bouchard? Shout to and Chris Carter. Wow. Ooh, Chris Carter was one of the goats at doing this. But Chris Carter, excuse me, Nick Wright and Chris Bouchard, they have a man hosting their show too, right? So I mean, Emmanuel Ocho is essentially the host of his show, right? Or even when Max, what's it called? Yeah, I mean, you had Max and you had Max Kellerman and Marcellus Wiley with Michelle Beadle, right? Or you had Michelle Beadle, I think it was. Oh, who's hosting that show? I can't remember. But you had Jamel Hill. But I mean, also too, it's not that many shows. Like, we're talking about the top shows here. We're not just talking about all these various shows that they had. There's only like really 3 or 4 shows that have really been crazy, right? Where people's actually watching it. All right, so let's be clear with that as well.
And Joy Taylor is not that. So there is a lot of vitriol towards her. People have been committed to hating Joy Taylor for a long time, much before this lawsuit. This just gives them a reason. It can also be true that there are a lot of men involved in this lawsuit who, if we opened up their closets and pulled out all the skeletons and looked through their sexual history, not only would you gasp and be afraid, you would be like, arrest those niggas. Because men do weird sexual shit at work all the time, which is actually what this lawsuit is all about. Another cold hard truth: you are never.
Don't disagree with her there. That's, not to be misogynistic, but that's one of the reasons why when you hear some people say that women shouldn't be in men's space, this is what they, in short, were saying it was going to happen. And so now you got to sort this out. Or you got women that's going to be down with it. You got women that's not going to be down with it. That's long story short. And then you got some women who's going to be down with it, like Joy Taylor, but then turn around and apparently say like, "Hey, yo, I was forced to do this." All right.
Never going to hear me come on the internet and accuse a woman who has used her time, her resources, her money, put her face out there for all of her dirty laundry to be picked apart and to be talked about and scrutinized in order to accuse a big corporation like Fox Sports or talent from Fox Sports of sexual misconduct. You are never going to hear me accuse a woman who is going to all of that trouble of lying unless I see cold, hard proof that she.
I want to be clear too. I believe Fox is also, and it's not just like Fox Sports or FS1, and I think it's Fox Sports, FS1, FS1, and FS2. Like, they have all these different names of the actual companies. I believe Fox is alleged in this lawsuit as well.
She's not telling the truth. I'm not going to do that. Another truth: a lot of the times we see these lawsuits and these accusations and this tea in Hollywood. Guess a part of that, making any money.
Okay, I thought she was going to.
Route, which is why
I thought she was going to go on a tangent here and start talking about people that aren't in.
What the hell went on behind closed doors? Sometimes we may never know. I'm not going to do that. Another truth: a lot of the times we see these lawsuits and these accusations and this tea in Hollywood. Guess what? We don't know what the hell went on behind closed doors. Sometimes we may never know. And sometimes you hear a big lawsuit with a lot of accusations and screenshots and proof, and you're like, holy shit. And then the person comes back with their defense, and you're like, holy shit. And I don't want to be a part of that. Another cold, hard truth that y'all don't want to.
Again, this is something you have to do. I'm just speaking on what's alleged and if the things that are alleged are true, right? So you do have to wait for everything to play out. As I always say, if you're going to bring about a lawsuit, talk to me when people go to court and they got to testify, in short. Right, so we're dealing with allegations right now.
Hear from me. Joy Taylor is more than qualified to be in the position that she's in.
Not true.
She was painted to be this bartender who randomly got on Fox Sports. She was going the traditional route, which is why I'm making TikToks and not.
Notice how she didn't say what her on. I mean, she wasn't again on some show that was filling like the 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. hour, whatever like the lame hour is. She was on the show to be the host for a show that was competing to be the #1 sports debate show in the world. All right, that Undisputed was designed to compete with First Take. Skip Bayless left First Take, I believe it was $5 million or whatever it was at the time, came to FS1 to compete against then Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman on First Take, and he picked Shannon Sharp. And Shannon Sharp, again, was doing CBS, was doing NFL Network, again, is a Hall of Famer, 3-time Super Bowl champion. Like that, they between Skip and Shannon are loaded between the talent between two of them. And one would say Joy may not have had the experience at that time to do that. Molly Karam came from NFL Network, I believe. So she was already on TV. So that wasn't like her first role. All right. So again, let's be clear. And also, too, no disrespect to Joy just in general, but a lot of her equity is in the fact that her brother is Jason Taylor. Like, remember, she was in Miami, and Jason Taylor is, it's arguably the second best player in the history of Miami, sports behind Dan Marino as far as NFL. If he's in that, before LeBron James and Wade showed up, Jason Taylor is one of the Miami icons from a sports standpoint. So having him be your brother probably helps as well. And no issue with that, by the way. But when we're talking about Joy had the credentials. Nah, it's not like she couldn't have been on TV. Nobody's saying that. If she was bartending, Jason Taylor is your brother. She was doing sports, talk show as far as like on the radio. And then she may have been doing producing behind the camera. But then to say, hey, we're going to make you have no on-air experience, on air, meaning being on TV, and we're going to make you be the host of this show that we're going to compete with First Take. Where are those credentials at? That's the issue. With the also allegations of you sleeping your way to the top and your husband having divorced you at the time for doing it, and your other husband being paid to keep silent about it. And then you allege being turned around saying you was going to say that the person who put you in this position was forcing himself on you, even though you was actually consenting to it the whole time.
Sitting at somebody's newspaper.
Nobody's saying they're upset with her bartending. We're saying she doesn't have the on-air experience. She was bartending. That's what they're saying. We're saying this is her resume, and it's not on air.
So that you can get to the position of Joy Taylor.
Nobody's mad that she was making her money. Let me let her talk though. My sorry, Maria or Mariah.
Who is clearly not interested in him. He's a weirdo, and we should be talking about that more. But we are used to men in power doing stuff like that, so it's not that shocking. And if this all turns out to be true, and you're one of those people using Joy Taylor as a vehicle for you to spew your misogyny at me or any other woman in sports that you don't like simply because they're a woman speaking about sports, fuck you. Because you have much deeper problems than Joy or anything that happened at Fox Sports.
Okay, if I'm one of these people that she's talking about, I really don't care that much. Let's be very, very clear. If what is alleged is true, highly unfortunate, and people see, one of the things that a lot of times people miss is that this is a civil suit. It's not a criminal suit. So it's not, how unlikely that anybody's going to put behind bars in this case. I'm not aware. This probably filed in Los Angeles, but I don't know how things work in California. Shout out to OJ. Remember, OJ had a criminal suit. That's the case that he beat with Johnny Cochran. Then when people say, he got convicted, that was the civil suit, which requires significantly less burden of proof. Likely, this will end up settling, and this lady's going to get paid probably more than $1.5 million, or the lady's involved in it because Fox, is a $1 billion company. But long story short, the issue is that if all these things have been happening in short for almost a decade and a half, that's tragic. But when it looks like the person who benefited the most from this, as far as what we can physically see, is Joy Taylor, and what's alleged that she had done and was going to do in this lawsuit. Charlie Dixon, yes, it's alleged in this lawsuit that he committed actual crimes. And so I think that he should be persecuted for those crimes. I have no issue with that as well. But then you have Joy as well involved. You have Skip involved, right? And it's sort of like, it's been going on for so long. And again, you filed a civil suit, not a criminal suit. So like, what are you trying to do? And again, it's hard to prove criminal allegations, especially on the sexual side. If you're going to wait, if they've been going on for 12 years, it's hard to have evidence. I watched not all of them. They have so many episodes, but a lot of episodes of Law and Order SVU. And any of the episodes, a lot of them involve some type of, essay crime. But they would be like, don't get a shower. Like, you're going to wash away the evidence. There are things that need to be done for people to get convicted when crimes are committed, but then we're telling the victims in this case what they need to do so that the people who committed the crime, we can actually convict them of the crime. Then that's blaming, that's victim blaming. There's an issue with that. It's like, what do you want? Because you have something, if you look at something like the Innocence Project, it's so crazy when Black people say this, but the one thing that Black people have the biggest issue with is being convicted of crimes that they did not do, and the evidence is not there to support it. But then that's supposed to play to everybody. If you want the legal system to be set up to help everyone out, quote unquote, equally, then you got to treat everyone the same, and you got to have the evidence. And if you don't have the evidence, you can't do no Brett Kavanaugh stuff talking about, yeah, he sexually assaulted me 30 years ago. Bitch, what? What evidence do you have? This got to be hearsay. I know you had no tapes, right? Different now where we got, you can record, everybody got cell phones, things like that. But when the evidence is in short hearsay, you say you did this and I say I didn't do this, then what are we going to do? And that's why people file civil suits, because in short, you run into a defamation issue where, from like a marketing standpoint, when now Fox has to deal with a short, you can call it like a smear campaign, but like they could deal with this hurting their ratings. People are not going to watch the show. So they're just like settle it to make it go away. And then they'll just pay the money and everybody go about their day. Or somebody, Charlie, this is going to end up getting terminated, and then he'll get a big payout, right? Then he'll get another job somewhere else some years later or something crazy like that, right? That's usually what happens in these type of situations. If I want to say Fox folds, but in some type of settlement, or if like more evidence pops up and they're like, oh, this is looking really bad, they'll usually end up settling. I'm someone, don't do the settling and go to criminal. Like if someone really, really did something to you, then you need to prosecute them criminally if that's what happened, right? Now, if they're saying in a situation where it's like, hey, you believe you got terminated unjustly, civil suit, right? Unless the laws fit that it could be criminal. But if you think it's a civil suit, then do civil. But when, in short, crimes are being alleged, then you have to take the route to actually prosecute people for their crimes, because you want Charlie Dixon to get in trouble here, or any of these men in power that she's talking about, but then for whatever reason you don't want to actually put them in a position where they can get in trouble. I mean, as a lawsuit alleged, this was going on for 12 years. So now we're showing up in 2024 like, dang. I mean, I don't work at Fox. I'm not in LA. I don't know what's going on there. So if something's going on, you got to tell us. If she's saying I should watch all these things happen, the one dude was a Bobby Diaz, was on camera, exposed himself, pulled his pants down. If he exposed himself fully, but he pulled his pants down, it's like, okay. Like we're not sitting here just keeping track of these things. This is your job, right? But anyway, y'all, locked and loaded into the episode. First, taken out of context, I think these are gonna be my favorite. I think the majority I really out of these are podcast files. It's all the same concept. Going over and reacting to the latest topics, the hottest topics that are going out, in sort of like the pop culture, social media type of sphere. We'll get into money stuff, we'll get into relationship stuff, like really about money, things like that. But when something like this happens, where it's like, okay, this is getting kind of crazy, we're going to cover it here on the Cory and FinallyFit podcast. All right. But again, y'all, make sure to comment, like, share, and subscribe. Shout out to the YouTube algorithm. Make sure you leave those rating reviews on the podcast platforms as well. My information, as well as my co-host Jordan information, can be found in the description on YouTube. Let me know what you thought about this episode. I'm not going to stop doing them, but if you guys want me to cover something, DM, email us, whatever it is, post a comment about it for us to go over. But I'm going to make sure that these are continuing to drop for y'all. All right. Again, we're going to talk about that California fire. We're going to get into some wild stuff about the budget in Maryland. We got some episodes kind of, like I said, new year, new us, trying to add some different information here on the podcast. Still got to troubleshoot my mic situation and things like that. But we're going to, start ramping up the kind of content that we're covering on this channel. All right. That's it, y'all. Remember to save more and say less. Keep making better your best. And I'll catch y'all in the next one.